night that kind of gave me an idea. Well, I guess I'll do another intro. My name is Timmis. I'm a real estate professional. I actually coach lacrosse here. I went here. My brother went here. My cousin went here. My brother-in-law went here. Uncles that went here. So very much ingrained in the school. Still very much involved. I guess I actually considered an employee of the school, which is crazy, but that's not my job though. I work at a company called Signature Associates. It's like Colliers. I know the Colliers guys showed up here a couple of weeks ago. Colliers is a much bigger company globally, and our company is much bigger locally. So it's a little bit of a difference in sort of platforms there. But in general, I'm a broker, but I don't find space for people. Like if I made the example, like if Brady's dad was like, hey, I need 200,000 square feet to start a lumber company, or for my whatever, my plastic molding company. I wouldn't be the guy to find your dad's space. That's not what I do. That's a tremendous opportunity. It's a big amount of space, but that's not what I do. If Brady wanted to start a bar downtown Detroit and said, Luke, I need space. My name's Luke. That's why it's such a great name. I need space downtown. I want to start a bar, sort of like a DraftKings bar sort of thing. I'd say I'm not your guy. That's not what I do. If someone had a big plot of land that they wanted to sell and said, hey, I think this could be a great development opportunity for somebody, blah, blah, blah. I don't sell land, that's not what I do. So I only sell cash flowing real estate. I do something that's called investment sales. It's sort of like real estate investment banking. I'm sure Shakorian maybe knows what I'm talking about. But, so I don't sell empty buildings, I don't sell land, I don't cut hair. I just sell cash flowing buildings. And specifically, I actually do sale leasebacks. That's all I work on. So sale leaseback is an arrangement where a corporately owned piece of real estate is sold outright to an investor for a long-term lease. I'll repeat that. So sale leaseback is an arrangement where a corporately owned piece of real estate, think, I gave the example last time of this company called Ellison Bakery, right, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They make cookies. And at the time I did the sale leaseback for them, they actually started getting into the cookie crumb game, which cookie crumbs can actually have a lot of end uses, specifically like toppings for pies and toppings for like ice cream and stuff like that. So they were starting to land like Cold Stone as a client to use all their cookie crumbs on all their ice cream, right? So or for their ice cream sundaes and whatnot. So. That was a really interesting company that I worked on. It was a company that was doing really, really well, but it was also in a growth period, okay? And because they were growing so fast, they were kind of looking at opportunities to raise capital. And so when you're looking at raising capital, you can do it in one of two ways. You can either take out a loan from the bank, right? Which implies, if you take out a loan from the bank owns you for a period of time. You can either take a loan from the bank or you can go raise equity, meaning you kind of dilute your own ownership of your company, right? So, Shakori, what would you rather? Would you rather take out a loan, keep 100% ownership of your company, or would you rather take on Brady as a partner and go from 100% ownership to say 50% ownership?
Brady.
You'd rather partner with Brady? There's no right answer to that. Some people, me personally, I'd rather take on the debt. I want to retain as much ownership as I can, especially if I think that the company is going to take off. I don't want to share that upside with Brady. I want to share that with me, my wife, my daughter. That's it, right? And so, and especially if I had conviction in that upside, I don't want to share that upside with anybody. I want to take as much of that as I can, right? So, that's just me personally. Now, if Brady had a strategic sort of, as an operating partner, he brought some sort of strategic advantage, certainly I might consider that. But so that's typically what investors or business owners are faced with when they're growing a business. It's either like you need money to grow your company, so you're either taking on debt from the bank or you're raising money from equity sources from investors, right? And so when I was just getting out of college, I really just focused on trying to create this third alternative, which was a sale leaseback, right? And so going after companies and saying, hey, you don't have to raise debt, you don't have to go take out debt from the bank, you don't have to go raise equity from investors and dilute your ownership. In fact, you can just leverage the real estate that you already have, you already own it. And the interesting part about it is you can typically get pretty hefty premium above what the appraised value of the real estate might be. Reason for that is you're typically signing a 15-year lease with these buildings, right? So it's a long cash flow stream. And that cash flow stream is what creates the premium above appraised value. Typically it's like 25 to 50%. It's crazy. So like I'll give you an example. I was working with a company in Corbin, Kentucky. Do you guys know where Corbin, Kentucky is? No. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of nowhere. And actually Corbin, Kentucky is famously known for being the first ever KFC location. But other than that, I'm not sure there's much going on. I don't know, you guys know what the blue people are. What's going on? You're late as hell, bro. I've seen you around. We're gonna get you a lacrosse stick this year or what? No? Alright, sit down. So, Corbin, Kentucky. You guys know what the blue people are?
Oh wait,
Yeah, look it up. It's crazy.
like inbred, like.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Look it up. It's crazy. It's like out in the boonies in Kentucky, like you'll see the blue people, you know? It's like, so anyway, like this is how remote this area was. Like you look at the building from like an aerial perspective here, we'll type it in. Type in, you guys got maps up? Get your map up.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Look it up on the map.
Yeah, let's say get your Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever you guys got. Let me know when you guys got that up. You guys got it up?
Yeah.
Okay, nice, you got Earth. Good boy. Type in CTA Acoustics. ACOUSTICS. Corbin, Kentucky. That's right. CTA Acoustics. What's this guy in the back? The guy that just came. What's your name again? Let's speak up. What's your name?
Jacob Johnson.
Jacob Johnson. Okay, cool. I see you around these parts. I don't know why I keep seeing you. You run track? Yeah, that's why.
He's always on the field.
He's always on the field. He needs to stop tracking and start lacrosse.
He's at the wall.
You guys got it?
Yeah.
Who has it up? You guys all have it up? You have it up? What are you doing?
Get it off.
You're just bombing right now, bro. Who's got it up? What are you doing, bum?
I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
Alright. CTA Acoustics, Corbin, Kentucky.
I watched the movies.
He's set to go.
You got it, sorry. Yeah, I got it. We're good now. Tate, you got it? You got
You
it?
looked it up in the Apple Market.
Alright, you got it. CTA Acoustics, ACOUSTICS. Alright, you got it? You got it up, guys? Yeah. Okay, so like you do a little zoom out there, right? Like not much around it.
Church.
There's a Coney Island there?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's immigration center. There's a racetrack.
Damn, dude. Alright, so not a whole lot. And maybe if you were to compare it to like, you know, if you do an aerial of like Brother Rice and look at everything around it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I get it.
Trailer park.
Alright? Like this is not like a metropolis here in Birmingham, Michigan, right? But like it's a lot more going on here than in Corbin, Kentucky. So Corbin, Kentucky, they had this building appraised at $11 million. Okay? $11 million, that's what they had it appraised for, that's what they thought it was worth. Then they talked to me. Well, CTA Acoustics is a company that's doing $600 million in revenue. Like it's a company that's, you know, really, really, really strong. You know, they've got good margins and they've got a strong ability to cover rent, right? So when you attach a 15-year lease to that, so when they sold the building and signed a 15-year lease, they actually ended up getting $22 million for their building, which is crazy, right? So what do they do with that $22 million? They actually invested back into their M&A program. What's M&A? Do you guys know what M&A is?
What is that? Merger and
Corey, you know what M&A is?
Merger.
Whoa, who said it? Who said it? Who said it?
Mergers and acquisitions.
This guy's king nerd. Good job. My guy. Say it loud.
Mergers and acquisitions.
And what's mergers and acquisitions?
They like merge together like companies.
Yeah.
Two companies, instead of like one buy, or I guess, yeah, one buys the other out. And
Period.
it becomes-
Leave it at that. Don't even get complicated with it, right? M&A is just companies buying each other, right? And so big companies typically like to buy smaller companies, right? And latch them onto their program, right? And it makes them stronger as a whole. So when you start to get to a certain size, you get to a company that's doing like 600 million in revenue, like typically you get to the point where it's like, all right, let's start buying some of our competitors. Let's start buying companies that maybe do somewhat what we do, but they do things that, aren't exactly doing everything that we're doing. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that they were looking at doing was buying a company that, what's up, Luke?
What does that like do for the company? Like, how does that like help them?
Mergers and acquisitions?
Eliminate
Hold on. Mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah.
Okay. So M&A, the whole name of the game in M&A is 1 + 1 = 3. Okay? It's kind of a silly concept, but it's the concept of synergy. You guys know what synergy is? Synergy is 1 + 1 = 3. So it's like you put, Grouch, like, you and Wellesley, a little bit synergistic relationship last year, right? You get the lefty, you get the righty, right? So like you being a lefty, him being a righty was actually very beneficial to your 1-2 punch, dodging from up top, right? So you can think of it this in terms of sports, like there's certain like if you put two guys in the same hockey line, or like a lefty and a righty, or you put a big guy and a small guy, or a big guy and a fast guy, or a guy with great hands and a guy that can shoot one-timers, right? That's a sort of a synergistic relationship, right? It's the 1 + 1 = 3 factor, right? If you play sports, you see it all the time, right? You can even happen with like, you have a certain kind of coach who coaches a certain kind of style, and then he gets a player like Walshy, like I remember freshman year, man, I was a perfect coach for Walshy, I felt. The perfect coach for Walshy, right? And Walshy ended up being way, way, way better at the end of the season than I think if he had some other random coach that didn't push him like we did, right? So in the business sense, like we'll take, for example, I always use like, I'll get to you. Just keep it up when I'm done talking for a second, all right? So in the business sense, I always use like the dental hygiene company as an example. So like if you have so like NJ and I run a dental hygiene company, right? We raise $100 million and we're gonna start a dental hygiene platform, right? So we buy a toothpaste company, right, in Toledo. And then we buy a toothbrush company in Detroit. And then we buy a mouthwash company in Cincinnati. And then we buy a dental floss company in Milwaukee. And then we buy another toothpaste company in Columbus. And you buy another, you get what I'm saying, right? So we're all kind of it's all Midwest sort of companies. We're all making the same thing. We're buying companies that make toothpaste. We're buying companies that make Listerine. We're buying companies that make dental floss and toothbrushes and stuff like that. And we're latching them onto a platform. What ends up happening when you do this, we're doing M&A. That's exactly what we're doing. We're buying these businesses and we're latching them onto one bigger platform. What ends up happening is toothpaste company in Toledo and toothpaste company in Cincinnati, turns out they source their fluoride or whatever the hell it is that's in the toothpaste. They source it, or one of them sources it from India. And it's like a way, way cheaper cost. The other one sources it from Texas, which is not cheap at all, right? Well, these guys who have like a really solid relationship in India, they say, hey, we used to be rival toothpaste guys, right? But now that we're on the same team, you should stop sourcing your stuff in Texas, start getting it in India. So you start reducing costs there. Now once we added the dental floss company, the dental floss company had this really unique way of packaging their product so they could fit more product into the truck, right? So you can make more sales, essentially. You can ship more at one time, right? So it's another cost-saving tactic, right? So all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's a pretty ingenious way of packing the truck. They figured this sort of geometric way of putting these boxes into the truck. And so they say, okay, well, let's start implementing this ingenious sort of packing method throughout all the companies, the toothpaste, the dental floss companies, et cetera, right? So when you start adding companies, to answer your question, it's like, how does that happen? It's like, well, when you start adding a bunch of companies on the platform, you start realizing like each individual unit within the platform has its own like trade secret. And that trade secret you can implement across the platform. Each individual unit might have their own unique relationship, right? So it's like, I know Mr. So-and-so. So it's like, well, if I know Mr. So-and-so, and y'all are on my team, we all know Mr. So-and-so. You get what I'm saying? So it's the relationships, too, that then get implemented throughout the platform as well. And then the last thing, too, is economies of scale. We talked about a little bit about that last week. Economies of scale, who doesn't know what that means? Really? Like last week, it was like no one knew what that meant. Yeah, I know for a fact you don't know what that means. Exactly. Okay, good. So economies of scale is like, in the real estate sense, we're talking about, like, if you own a bunch of houses, for example, I own a house in Grosse Pointe, and then I own a house, I don't, but let's just say I own a house in Grosse Pointe, I own a house in St. Clair Shores, I own a house in Clinton Township, I own a house in Birmingham, I own a house in Rochester Hills. It's like, I gotta hire different landscaping companies for each house, because they're all so far apart from each other. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if I own 6 houses all on the same street in Birmingham or whatever, I can use the Fortinos for all 6 houses. You get what I'm saying? And I can say, guys, come on. These houses are all right next to each other. You know, you're charging me, you know, $40 a house or whatever it is. It's like, let's call it $30 a house. It's the easiest job ever. 6 houses in a row, you get $30 a house, blah, blah, blah. They say deal, right? It's scale. I have economies of scale. So when you build big platforms and you buy companies and you get bigger and bigger, you start to create that scale. And when you create scale, you get scale pricing. So like if you're buying fluoride in bulk for your toothpaste, well, when you're buying in mega bulk, the cost goes down. You follow that? Okay, so that's kind of the purpose of M&A, right? It's a lot of things, but you might be buying a company because they have some proprietary or unique little invention. In this case, the CTA Acoustics deal, they were eyeing down a, not even M&A, it was more like a product launch. They were looking at doing, launching a product that, it was, what do you call them, the floor mats in the car, but they have speakers on them, right? So you can like hear music like out of the floor, right? So that's what these guys did. They all make like interiors for cars. This was like a new product that they wanted to get into. Well, if you want to get into a new product like that, guess what? It's gonna cost a shit ton of money, right? And so when you're eyeing down this kind of this new product, and it's like, man, we can implement this in Tesla cars. So Tesla is, you know, that's a contract we can get. GM, Ford, Stellantis, etc. You know, these are the kind of contracts that can land with this new unique product. But it's going to cost you like $25 million to go and do the R&D, build a model, you know, finalize the model, get it, and then put it into production. It's going to take a lot of money. So what do? Do you raise money from Brady, you know, and dilute your equity, or do you take out a loan from Shakorian? And now Shakorian's breathing down my neck for the next 20 years, right? And so in a lot of cases, people don't want either of that, right? And so they take the one thing that they own, the real estate, and they sell it outright and they sign a long-term lease. So you guys follow that? Mm-hmm. That's what I do, sale leaseback. So it's all mostly around sort of M&A situations. It's also a lot of times before maybe like a big product launch, like they've got some innovative thing that they want to do. It's going to cost money to do it. And that's typically what I'm doing. I don't sell like, you know, I don't sell houses, I don't sell land, I don't find space for people. I basically just do this one thing. So I gotta get this guy first, sorry. You good?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you answer.
Answer, all right. Alex?
So, when you're doing those buybacks, are the.
Sale leaseback,
Leaseback,
yeah.
is the company. that-
Half my clients call it that too, by the way.
Are they technically the landlord in that then and renting their, in leasing it out now to do it? Is that what you're saying you're doing?
Yeah, so the corporation, the business that's in the building, they own their building, right? Your dad sold a lot of companies' buildings, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these companies, they get to this point where it's like, I actually, you know, what is the point of owning this? Like I make jackets, and my jacket business is killing it, you know, and I'm trying to expand into high schools. I want to make jackets for high school sports teams or whatever, right? It's like, so the business that owns their real estate, they're sitting there, they own it, they operate out of this location every single day, they sell the building to an investor, okay, it's typically a REIT is the investor, real estate investment trust. Okay, so the investor comes in, buys the building, and leases it back to them for like 20 years or 15 years. So they stay there, nothing happens. In fact, in most cases, the employees of the company have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
And they don't need to. It's really just the owners, right? Nothing changes day to day. They still are in the building, they're still operating, the same things as usual. So it's nothing really changes.
Are they making a profit when they sell it then? And then just throwing that money back into their lease?
Okay, so and for these, it's a great question. So we talked about last week, I wish you guys were here last week. So a lot of people think about real estate investing They think about like kind of buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high. Like that's how people make money in real estate. That's not how people make money in real estate. For the most part. Like the biggest players in the game, not really. Not really.
Yeah.
What REITs do is they buy a bunch of these sort of sale-leaseback deals, right? So like they'll buy the Allison Bakery deal, which makes cookies, right? They'll buy the CTA Acoustics deal, which makes interiors for cars. They will buy the, like we did the largest dinghy boat dealership in the world. You know, it was like a huge, like, 350,000 square foot building with a bunch of dinghy boats like hanging from the ceiling, and you can go in there and buy a dinghy boat. That's 3 totally random industries, right? And there are also 3 totally random locations too. So we've got just on those 3 deals, we've got geographic diversity in the portfolio, and you've got business diversity, industry diversity within the portfolio. You guys follow that? So REITs typically buy like thousands of these things, thousands, and so then like their portfolio kind of acts as this like well-diversified portfolio of real estate that's leased to a well-diversified portfolio of tenants in all these different industries, right? They might make clothing, they might like make furniture, they might make cars, they might make just components for cars. And so the more that they diversify, okay, the more their share price benefits. So REITs are typically publicly traded.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is the company that sells their their building and then is now leasing it back, are they losing money on it, or do they break even, or what's their like inclination to sell that?
Yeah, great
as opposed
point.
to just owning it
So,
outright?
yeah, for sure. We talked about this a little bit last week. It's like, why would someone do that? Well, for one, like in CTA Acoustics scenario, they bought, in an M&A deal, there's a parent company. There's a parent company called Clev. It's a French company. That's how they pronounce it, Clev. And Clev is the $600 million guy. They bought CTA Acoustics. Okay, CTA, so this is a big company. They bought CTA Acoustics. When they bought CTA Acoustics, they bought the real estate with it, the one that you're looking at. They bought that real estate for $11 million. Year and a half later, they did a sale leaseback with my team, and they got $22 million. So they made a freaking massive profit, right? But you're kind of asking like, well, like kind of like why? Like why are they doing this? Are they losing money over the course of paying the rent?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, so a lot of people look at like, if you sell a building for $1.5 million and you got to pay $100,000 of rent a year, right? In year 15, you will have broken even, right? Essentially is what you're saying, right? That's
exactly what I'm saying.
It's a good observation.
So like
right?
besides not having to worry about the property because it's owned by somebody else.
Okay, so what's your name again?
Eddie.
Eddie brought up a great question. This is my biggest pushback. So like I have CEOs and CFOs ask me this question all the time, right? So you guys following his question or not?
Yeah.
Lewis has no idea, right? Okay, what he's saying is, if you own a piece of real estate, right, and you sell it for $1.5 million, and you got to pay $100,000 for 15 years, you will have received $1.5 million, but you will have paid $1.5 million in rent. What's the point, right? Great question. You guys are following that question or not?
Yeah.
You guys all got that? Gallo, you got that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I do, yeah.
Okay. All right. So here, this is why. Hey, Jason. One of the things we were talking about yesterday is like, you said I'd like to bring in like a recruiter, try to figure out like what classes you need to know to be really effective at this stuff, right? Boys, take finance. I'm telling you, take finance, and this will answer your question. It's like you get into those courses, the finance courses. One thing you learn about finance is a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Okay. So why do they say that?
Inflation.
Well, inflation's a very basic, that's kind of like a fundamental reason why, right? Like inflation, yes, but it's more than just that. It's just like values in general. So you guys know what the S&P 500 is?
Yeah.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Good for you. Who doesn't know what the S&P 500 is? Like most of you shouldn't know, I feel like, but the S&P 500 is a stock that represents the 500 biggest stocks or 500 biggest companies in the U.S. So Apple in the S&P 500, Walmart, S&P 500, Ford, S&P 500, Google, S&P 500. These are all in the S&P 500. So that's basically the only stock that I buy. is S&P 500, that's it. Right, it's 500 biggest companies in the US, Team USA, baby, trees grow, it's just gonna get bigger, right? So, the S&P 500, since its inception, has gone up like 8% a year, every single year since it started. Pretty crazy, right? If you're making 8% compounded every single year, it's not 8% compounded every year, but it's like 32% one year, and 6% one year, and up 15, and down 7, and it averages out to 8% compounded a year. If you're making 7% on your money compounded a year, make 7%, 7%, 7%, 7%, you will have doubled your money in 10 years. Okay, so your money, they always say, if you put your money in the S&P 500, your money should double every 7 to 10 years. You follow that? If you put your money in the S&P 500, your money should double, historically speaking, last 150 years or whatever, it should double every 7 to 10 years. Okay? Now the reason why people get in business, like CTA Acoustics, stuff like that, is because they're outperforming the S&P 500. Right? If they're buying a company like CTA Acoustics, the reason why is because they're going to do a lot better than the S&P 500. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just put your money in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Right? So, with the S&P 500 and other indices like Dow Jones, whatever, moving at the same pace, similar pace,
Yeah.
it's more than just inflation. It's like there's so many opportunities out there to put your money to work to make it compound or double every 7 to 10 years. Right? Now the only reason why you would engage in M&A and make those types of investments is if you thought you were going to outpace that, right? So a lot of these private equity guys, they make 20 to 30%. If you're making 20, 30% on your M&A deals, your money can double in like 3 years. Crazy, right? So now we get into your question, right? So if a company has to pay $100,000 in rent times 15 years, that equals 1.5 million, right? And you're getting 1.5 million, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Right, so you're getting it 1.5 million, but you might as well just deduct this. It's a net zero game, right? It wasn't worth it.
Oh, no, I get it. Cause
Now you get it.
Because money's less.
That's
so-
hell yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So if we just simply took this and put it in the S&P 500 in 7 to 10 years, assuming we're 3,
3, yeah, exactly.
right? But if you're in the M&A world, which those are my clients buy companies. My clients are not real estate people. In fact, they're quite the opposite. They buy businesses, and they're trying to find ways to capitalize their acquisition, right? And so, let's say if you're making 30%, like some of these guys are, or 20%, it's like after 3 years, it's 3 million, and after 3 more years,
6.
it's 6, and after 3 more years, it's 12.
Yeah.
Right? So for some of these folks, it's an actual no-brainer. Like arithmetically speaking,
Yeah.
mathematically speaking, it's just no-brainer that you take the money today. Right? They always say you win the lottery, right? What do they tell you to do?
Don't tell nobody.
Invest it? Yes, Fisher, for sure. I hope you would. What's that? Don't tell anyone. I like that too. No, he says you have 2 choices. You have 2 choices. What's that? Who said that? Who said take the? Who said that? My guy. He's a lottery guy. What's your name?
Jacob.
Jacob. You're gonna win the lottery someday. You could either get paid out. They'll just say like, we'll give you $100,000 a month for the rest of your life or something like that, right? Or we'll give you the 600 million, right? Or I just whatever. It's always like we'll give you this every month for the rest of your life, or you take this big lump. It's a lump sum all day for this reason. Your money should compound every 7 to 10 years. When I say compound, just double. Your money should double every 7 to 10 years. So they say cash is trash. Cash is trash, man. Don't keep cash, right? Buy S&P 500 if you can. Don't gamble, do it. Oh, that's fun. It's like a little parlay, boys. So that's the idea for the sale-leaseback perspective, right? And kind of both sides benefit here, right? Obviously, the recipient of the cash has a use for it, right? That's why they're doing the arrangement, right? But for the real estate investment trust, right? I'll get to you in a second. For the real estate investment trust, they get to further diversify their portfolio. And diversification for the REIT is the buyer of the real estate. Real Estate Investment Trust, REIT. So the REIT that's buying the real estate, they're trying to improve their stock price. Right, they're publicly traded. How do you improve the stock price? Well, you diversify the hell out of your portfolio. Make it really, really, really safe. So every acquisition they do is subject to it being a good company. It's a good acquisition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know it's not like crypto, but could they just like crash the S&P 500 and not really?
that's a great question. I love it. So like where I grew up in Birmingham, which is, Birmingham is used to be like all farmland. In fact, it's kind of crazy, like all the land in Birmingham ties back to Michael Corton Sr., like, you know that?
Yeah.
So I went to school with Michael Corton, like his great-great-great-great-grandson at Rice. Crazy. They all went to Rice. Yeah, like Corton Road,
Corn Lake.
Corton Lake, Corton School, it all traces back to, it's kind of cool, right? So we'd be like, oh, Michael Corton, he's arrived, royalty. But kind of interesting, right? Great family, by the way. But it's old, man. Like this is old, like Native American land when you like go back to it, right? It was old Michael Corton's at one point, but before that it was Native American land, right? And so like I remember, and I'm getting to your question. I know it's kind of a crazy way to answer it, but I remember in my backyard. I still have dreams of me. So crazy. I have dreams of me being a kid and looking into my backyard. I had this giant tree in my backyard. It was huge. Like, it was like this wide, sort of, like maybe even a little wider. Right? It was like this enormous tree. It was enormous. And it was there when I was a little kid. I remember just being like, that's a huge tree, right? It was the biggest tree I ever knew until I got outside the bubble. Right? It was like the biggest tree I'd ever seen. And when I was 16, it was still like a huge tree. And when I was 22, it's still a huge tree. And now that I'm 32, and I go to visit my mom and go see the house that I lived in, guess what? Oh, that tree is huge. You know what I'm saying? And so I use that as examples. Like my dad always says to me, because I used to say it to my dad, like S&P 500. Like it can't just go up, up, up. It can't just go up, up, up. And my dad would say, trees grow, man. Trees grow. So I'll leave you with this. Is that the end of this? Okay, on the S&P 500, just understand this. There's a reason why the S&P 500 won't go back. And I'll give you a good example that you'll understand. 1972 or 1962, 1962, Pong. You know what Pong is? Yeah. Pong came out. Yeah, Pong, the thick 2D. 5 years later, or 6 years later, 3D Pong came out. Then Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Mario came out. Then N64 came out. You know the N64, Mario Kart and Super Mario 64 and all this stuff. Then after that, there was the next generation. Then the first Call of Duty came out. Then the second Call of Duty came out. Then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. Then Fortnite comes out. Then the new... Do you think that video game quality is going to, like tomorrow, going to crash and revert back to Pong days? Or to these 2D, 12-bit games? Right? What do you think are the chances of that? What's that?
Very low.
Very low, right? Unless something apocalyptic happened, right? And so the reason why I use that as an example is like the whole world, everything that we do, all the technology that we have, the business that we see, they build on themselves. They build on themselves. You know what I'm saying? The Pong technology evolved into 3D Pong, which evolved into this, which evolved into that. And then 2D Mario turned into 3D Mario. You get what I'm saying? And, you get first-person shooters and you got third-person shooters. All of a sudden you've got this huge world of video games. You've got the Oculus and this, right? It's like, it's so much more advanced today than it was in 1962 or whatever, right? You follow? Yeah. So the S&P 500 kind of moves in the same way. It's a very similar sort of trajectory, right? You follow that? Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't see it going back to Pong days. No, I don't see it happening. Sorry, that's it. That's all I got. Sorry, I wish you could talk more real estate.